वाओ, आप सब एक फैमिली हो, वन फैमिली। सब कुछ शेयर करते हो और इंटरनेट पे क्या क्या करते हो?
मूवीज, क्रिकेट, वीडियो कॉलिंग,
ओके, सबके पास स्मार्टफोन्स हैं? तो एयरटेल का कोई भी इंटरनेट पैक लो और पूरी फैमिली के साथ शेयर करो। हाँ, स्मार्टफोन हो तो सिर्फ एयरटेल लो।
Hello, one and all. I'm Jamie from All Time Movies, and today we're going to Middle-earth to reveal the Lord of the Rings cinema secrets. You've been waiting for this one. Peter Jackson's adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy saga made a whopping $2.9 billion at the box office and nabbed itself 17 Oscars while it was at it. That's a lot. But this much-loved trilogy could have been very different. Sean Connery was first offered the role of Gandalf, but he turned it down because he didn't understand the script.
What?
Tim Curry and Jeremy Irons were both considered for the role of corrupt wizard Saruman. Instead, it went to Christopher Lee, he's dead now, who was desperate to play Gandalf, but eventually settled on the next best thing. I watched some behind-the-scenes shit from The Hobbit. That dude did not know where he was. Peter Jackson whispers in his ear like, "You're Saruman?" Oh. Stuart Townsend beat Daniel Day-Lewis and Russell Crowe for the role of Aragorn, but 2 months into rehearsals, Peter Jackson realised he'd made a terrible mistake casting a younger actor for the part. Filming had already begun when Viggo Mortensen took over. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Back to the Future, Cinema Secrets. Go and watch it. There's that happens in that too. Except you might have heard of the guy who was in Back to the Future. No one's heard of this guy. He was Dorian Gray in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. The same year that Fellowship came out. He probably got kicked off Lord of the Rings, and then his agent was like, "I have got the perfect safety net. You are going to do a massive movie. The movie Sean Connery rejected Lord of the Rings for. It's going to be way bigger." But before Peter Jackson, there were several less successful productions of Tolkien's masterpiece. In the 1960s, the Beatles wanted to not only produce, but star in their own Lord of the Rings feature, with Stanley Kubrick as director. John Lennon would have been cast as Gollum, Paul McCartney as Frodo, Ringo Starr as Sam, and George Harrison as Gandalf. Luckily, Kubrick thought that a Lord of the Rings adaptation was impossible, but 40 years later, CGI allowed the trilogy to finally be made with groundbreaking special effects. And the movie's most precious CGI creation is, of course, Gollum. Not the fat black one, the precious?
Fat Hobbit is always so polite.
Andy Serkis brought his slimy creature to life with a motion capture suit and a team of highly skilled 3D artists. Using a new CG technique called subsurface scattering, the team were able to simulate light reflections bouncing onto objects to create the illusion of real skin. But not everything in the trilogy uses sophisticated techniques. Many of the special effects are just old-fashioned movie tricks. For these scenes, the film used forced perspective to make Frodo and Bilbo look small. Ian McKellen is positioned closer to the camera than Elijah Wood in Ian Home, to create an optical illusion that he is towering over the wee hobbits. And in The Prancing Pony, some of the actors are walking around on stilts. And to create the illusion of vast size and distance across Middle-earth, set design created polystyrene miniature models and positioned them far away from the camera. Miniature? More like massivature. The model of Barad-dûr is 15 feet tall. Ears, one for you. Lord of the Rings used 1,800 pairs of latex ears and feet during production because they damaged so easily. The costume department had a special oven for cooking latex, which they had to keep running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, aka 24/7. In The Fellowship of the Ring, the scene where Aragorn throws an apple at Pippin took 16 takes to get right. The trilogy has hundreds of stunt scenes, so naturally the cast got a few bumps and bruises along the way. In this shot, Peter Jackson praised Viggo Mortensen for his brutally emotional performance, when actually, Mortensen had just broken 2 of his toes kicking the orc's helmet. Ouch! And in these shots of Aragorn, Gimli and Legolas chasing after the orcs, all 3 are injured. Orlando Bloom had recently fallen off a horse and broken 2 of his ribs. Mortensen's toes were still badly broken, and Gimli's stunt double was suffering from a knee injury. Now that is dedication to your art. Being paid an awful lot also helps. Fortunately, not one of the 300 horses featured in the trilogy was harmed. That's because during the intense battle scenes, all injured stallions are all computer generated. There's a lot of creepy sounds in The Lord of the Rings, but the voices of the orcs were created from the sound of cute seal pups. Now, if you're asking if that makes them any less scary, the answer is no. And what Hollywood classic would be complete without the Wilhelm scream? And Sean Bean had to learn his entire Mordor speech after receiving it only the night before. One does not simply learn a script. And yes, I know you're wondering, I know you paused it and asked yourself the question, this really is Elijah Wood leaping onto Buckleberry Ferry and not his stunt double. What? Who is he? Tom Cruise? Mission Impossible Cinema Secrets, go and watch it. But watch closely and you'll find a few subtle tributes and Easter eggs. In Fellowship, Bilbo's book contains the same runes as the map that appears in The Hobbit. The runes explain how to find the entrance to the Lonely Mountain.
Grey stone when the thrush knocks, and the setting sun with the last light of Durin's day will shine upon the keyhole.
The shot of Proudfoot at the party in Fellowship is an homage to Ralph Bakshi's 1978 adaptation, and so is this shot when the hobbits hide from the ringwraiths under the roots of a tree. That must have been a deep-rooted plan. You know, from that point in the movie, the story could have really branched off in different directions. I'll leave it at that. And Jackson also managed to slip in a few cameos. Here's his son and daughter at Helm's Deep. And of course, he wasn't going to make a 618-minute motion picture without making a few appearances himself. Here, here, and here. If you're still listening, then congratulations! You've made it to the end of the video. It's money in our pockets and happiness in your hearts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.